I'm learning my lesson about time. No more jokes about time, but we'll just keep going with the program. We're glad everyone is here. This is actually a really interesting session. We're going to hear from a number of different speakers in a row, organizations that work with and support entrepreneurs in different ways. And so one of the things we know at Endeavor about entrepreneurship is it's not easy, right? Being an entrepreneur is not an easy thing. And the more sort of friends and help and support you can have, the better. And so our first speaker is Dirk Henke from Criteo, who's going to tell you a little bit about what Criteo does. So please join me in welcoming Dirk.
Need the clicker. So merhaba, I'm Dirk. Unfortunately, this one word is the only word I can speak in Turkish. My team is a bit embarrassed about this, but it should be okay. Just quickly, I wanted to thank Burak for doing I think I'm breaking up. No? Yeah. Okay. For putting together this great conference. What I personally like and love to see is really all those different people with the same spirit, new ideas, wanted to do something different, maybe earn some money as well, dreaming about some big cars. It was okay. 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 So I wanted to introduce you quickly to what Criteo has done different and does different as well. Quickly up front to ask you, so this slide, actually, I don't like it very much. I don't know who of you is working in the advertising or marketing industry, e-commerce. So we had lots of speeches about this the past days as well. Criteo is working in the online marketing industry, and this is exactly the landscape and environment there. I don't really understand it properly. This is what's relevant for, actually, you can look at this for the US or for Germany or for Turkey. It more or less looks the same. They're killing me right now. So actually, some of those guys who put it together put Criteo somewhere here, and it's called retargeting. It's quite funny because we wouldn't put ourselves over there. But just imagine an advertiser who wants to reach a certain customer base and client base, how complex that is to get from where they are to actually the audience on the other side. So what Criteo actually does is much more than just being a little dot somewhere there, but is actually a whole range of things, working with the advertiser and actually ending up displaying an ad. So who are we actually? So not very long ago, we used to be a very tiny, shy French startup with two guys from Microsoft who actually thought, hey, we're engineers, so we want to stop just doing internal reportings, etc. So they quit Microsoft and joined together in 2004, 2005, Frank and Romain. So hardcore engineers, pure math guys as well, wanted to develop an algorithm to come up with product recommendations online. The first idea was to create a website to show users product recommendation, products that they might be interested in. At some point, it was a pure service that they did. Implement something like, from Amazon, product recommendation. You look at products, and then you get recommendations around products that you might be interested in as well. That was nice, but I think we wouldn't be here where we are today. It would have been maybe a company of 10 people still. So what has changed? In 2008, actually, we had a pretty good idea of coming up with a product recommendation and putting them into banner ads. So at some point, we also showed the recommendations to users who left a shopping site, went to other websites, read news or their emails, and then showed them specific ads based on their interest. We didn't know whether that was working or not at all, but when we did the first test, we actually were pretty surprised how high the click rates on those ads were and how well performing they were. We got a bit, not arrogant, but like overwhelmed and thought we are the greatest now. So just shortly after, as a small French company, at that point still probably 20 people only, we thought, so now we can do it, we're going to go to the US. So we got pretty hard slammed in our face and said sort of like, go back again, try it again later. And we really experienced how difficult it is, something that is working in one market, in that case in France, to bring it to another very tough market like the US. However, today, US is our biggest market. We learned our lesson. We hired some Americans that can do it differently and that what's necessary in that market as well. And we are quite happy about that. Today we're about 800 employees, trending towards 1,000. That's usually my sales pitch, being a salesperson. We are active in around 35 countries and work with more than 3,000 clients already today. So that was a pretty fast ride. When I joined 3 years ago, it was about 40 to 50 people, and now we are almost 1,000 already. A little sidestep, something that's just pretty important, I personally believe, is really everything around the product and what a company does, and what's relevant. So when you look at the tip of this ice mountain above the waterline, that's actually guys like me running around, being on stage, creating some buzz, so sort of the sales guys. But actually that's really relevant is everything that's below the waterline, all the engineers, the technical guys that are actually responsible for the product itself. So Criteo would have not survived or been that successful as we are without a great product. And I just remember my employer before Criteo was someone very different, that was Microsoft. And even there, someone like Steve Ballmer, maybe you know this famous YouTube video, him going crazy on stage and shouting developers, developers, developers. And that's really something that I can fully agree with, and you continuously need to invest in there. So that's why at Criteo, probably 2/3 of our employees are still developers and engineers. And yes, we do have women as well. I heard the question a little earlier. I don't know how many, to be honest, but we do have. So I've seen some. So going a bit more in detail, what have we done differently or what do we do differently? And at some point when we experience, okay, so our ads are performing very well, most of the Criteo guys are coming from the search marketing industry before. So they were used to work in an online marketing part that is highly transparent, highly scalable, and also performing. Display at that point, of course, you had a lot of branding, you had a lot of innovations and products as well. Targeting, behavioral targeting came up at some point. So it was all around, finding the right customer to target. But to be very honest, it hardly ever worked that well. What we wanted to achieve is to make display perform like search. And the main thing here is really to find the right user. So again, I said our product is around recommendations, and our clients are the big e-commerce clients that you can name in each market. So we want to find the right user for them, so potential clients or customers, at the right time where it makes sense to address them with an ad, and also with the right message. In this case, the right message is a banner that is actually of interest for this guy. So as you can see on yourself when you surf the web, how many banners you see, or even on television, how many TV ads you're being confronted with that are not relevant to you at all. The thing that really made a big difference as well, it sounds quite simple and trivial, but is the way we charge our clients. So we charge our clients only whenever there is a user clicking on an ad. So CPC model. It sounds easy, but in the end, we buy all the impressions on CPM. So that means we are only charged if a user clicks on our ad, but we pay for every single impression. So this means, again, when you look at this example before with the Ice Mountain thing, if we're not doing a good job with our product, we would be broke probably within a few days because we would buying impressions and not receiving any money. And that was something, doing this 100% was something quite groundbreaking at that point. This is what it actually looks like. So in Turkey, taking one of our clients, Lidiana, so I'm surfing on that website looking for watches. And I don't want to buy it. At that point, I leave the site. I go into Hurriyet to read some news around sports, and then all of a sudden Criteo finds me again, recognizes me, and shows me an ad with products that I have looked at, but also products that are recommended, so that I might be interested in as well, alternative products. So as you can see, a different type of watch. In this case, I think a watch that I might be afford, as I'm not a founder, so it's a watch for maybe 80 Turkish lira. And then actually the aim of Criteo is, to display those ads, to make the user to click on it, go back to our client site, and then actually buy. What is happening, there's a lot of happening actually in real time. So that's another thing that Criteo really not necessarily invented, but made usable for online advertising. And it's that not the classic thing, an ad is created and it's displayed over a time. But in this case, we create the ads in real time. So we find you back on Hurriyet, and the moment we get the call to say, okay, we are allowed to place an ad, we actually in that moment make the decision which ad to show. And this again is based on what products you have looked at, what we think you might be interested in, but also lots of different parameters that we are looking at. It's like the ad itself, the colors, the pictures, the call to action button. Is there a promo? Do we want to add a bargain there? And all of that is actually done within 6 milliseconds every single time. We are creating those and displaying those. And that together is something that Omasan was quite new in the beginning, to be honest, compared to classic branding banners. Companies were like kind of screaming, even publishers saying, hey, it's not like the prettiest banner, and what shall I do with it? The users might not like it, but in the end, the performance behind it shows that this is highly relevant for the users, and that they like it actually. So at the end, the results show that it's working. A few points that I wanted to mention, especially interesting for the ones in the advertising industry and marketing, is so what we see and what we believe is changing the advertising world right now. And what it will be very important and is becoming very important already. Of course, we heard things about mobile that is relevant for e-commerce even as well. It's not really there yet. We can see it. It's much more advanced already in Asia. We are doing the first test there. For us, being in the e-commerce space, of course, it only becomes interesting once people actually buy something through the mobile device. However, what we believe is extremely important and that will change the way that online advertising is working is the buying automation. So today, or after a few days now being at a conference, I come back to my office and I probably have a huge pile of contracts laying there that my team wants me to sign, IOs to sign, that we then fax to our clients, that we send via mail to clients. And that in the digital industry. I mean, give me a break, right? It takes forever to even process certain things in the digital industry. So automation in this case in advertising right now means RTB, which is sort of a buzzword already, real-time bidding, which means that you don't set a price for the banner that you want to place and buy from a publisher beginning of a month, but actually when they offer it to you, at that time, in real time, shortly before you actually place the banner, you bid for it and you give a price. So it's like an auction model in the end. And that is really changing the industry. I can see this in Turkey as well. I hear a lot about RTB right now. Everyone is sort of talking about it. And I just wanted to show, as you can see, this is something very new. It just started in 2010 in those 4 markets. Barely in 2015, it's supposed to be 1/4 already of all the traded impressions are going through RTB. Just to show you a few players there, the big guys, of course, Google, Microsoft, Yahoo, they all build their RTB exchanges, so the trading platforms. For Criteo, it's very handy, it's very important, because as I said before, I mentioned before, a lot what we do in real time. So actually being able to place a bid and the price in real time makes a lot of sense for Criteo. However, we still work with more than 5,000 publishers directly, and make the deals with them, as this is still a huge portion of the quality inventory that we're able to get. The other very big thing that we believe will continuously change this industry, and it's another sort of buzzword, big data. I think a lot of people of you have heard of the word big data, the phrase, but what is it actually? And big data is easy to say, but is that something that's happening already today? Is that something that we actually use in advertising already? And yes, it is, and actually every one of you is confronted with this as well. So just to give you a few examples around big data happening in the online world right now. Per second, there are 33,000 searches globally on Google. In 1 second, just for comparing what Criteo is doing, for instance, at that time, we have 115,000 RTB requests. So I said before, RTB, real-time bidding. In this case, we receive per second 115,000 times the request to buy a placement and to place an ad. 11,000 Facebook posts per second, and also around 11,000 pictures that we display per second in banners, product pictures, etc. There is around 1,600 tweets per second on Twitter, more than 6,000 banners that we actually display per second, and around almost 800 app downloads per second on the iStore. And we have around 250,000 HTTP requests per second. So I think this really shows big data in the end is already there, is extremely big, is ruling the industry, but is creating a lot of challenges as well. Having said around real-time bidding, automation of and creation of banners, it again becomes very important to have a good product, to have enough people focusing on the product, improving it constantly, to be able to actually process all of this data. And to finish, I saw this picture and I thought that was quite impressive to see, talking about data, about 50 years ago, that's a whole huge, big-ass thing, 5 megabytes, how heavy it was to process at that time actually. You needed a huge plane to carry this little piece of data, which is kind of a joke today. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to come to me afterwards, or I'm proud to say that since my Turkish is not that good, I have, of course, a Turkish team over there, Erkan and Ezra, so you can go to them, of course, as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you.